Welcome. For those of you joining us for the Teaching with Tinkercad webinar series, you're in the right place. And if you're not, you should stick around because it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to start off with a warm-up question. So please feel free to introduce yourselves to each other in the chat. This chat is your chat, so please feel free to say hi. One of the really exciting things about these webinars is how we have teachers from all over the world coming together to join in. So do please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. And also let us know what you're thinking about this warm-up question. It's a loaded one, I think, but we thought we'd start out with something provocative. So in what ways are you approaching AI with your students this year? And do you have any tips or tricks you can share with other educators in the chat? And again, if you're here for the Teaching with Tinkercad webinar series, you're in the right place. We will get started with the formal program in a little bit. But as we are getting ready to get started, we'd love for you to share your ideas in the chat. Randy, anything provocative in the chat yet? Or there's a lot of introductions, which would be
Lots of
great too.
introductions. Someone says they are using AI. Sorry. They experiment themselves, but they're not using the students yet. Sorry.
Prototyping.
A lot of people who are new to AI. Someone's using it. Oh, the chat's moving fast. Sorry. They're
That's a
using
good thing.
microbit.
Huh,
Um, someone's using Magic AI with their sixth graders. Let's see.
interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Someone's using it to scaffold for multilingual learners. That's a very good application of it.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. I'm also wondering, I know that a lot of the teachers that are joining us today probably do project-based learning with their students or even some design thinking. And I do wonder maybe, in what phases of a project or, a design thinking activity might AI tools be the best place to situate them in? Is it
Yes.
during problem finding? Is it during ideation? Anything else, Randy?
Yes. There is someone using AI as a tool. The notebook. Someone's teaching a lesson on AI and kind of doing a history of machine learning. That's kind of fun.
I love the
Um,
interdisciplinary connections.
let's see. Alternating between warning students about using AI and web searches and teaching them how AI can be used with experience in Photoshop. So that's interesting. The benefit, the pros and cons of it.
I find the chat so fascinating. It's one of my favorite things about these webinars. So keep it going. Keep the chat as exciting as you hope for it to be. But we're going to get started with the formal presentation now. We have a lot to cover. It's been a while since we've had a Teaching with Tinkercad webinar. So this is the first webinar in this series for the new school year. And our topic is Harness the Power of Design and Make in Education. So I haven't formally introduced myself yet, but my name is Kellyanne Mahoney. I manage marketing for our education audiences, particularly secondary at Autodesk, but I also was a teacher in the Boston Public Schools for 13 years before I joined Autodesk. So it's been fun straddling these two worlds, and these webinars are a great opportunity to do so. I'm also excited to be joined by Guillermo Melatoni, who is the Tinkercad lead at Autodesk, and Christian Pramuk, who is the Tinkercad product manager at Autodesk. Pramuk, Christian Pramuk. So how to participate? We want this to be not just a one-way conversation. We want this to be flowing, across the chat. You all have knowledge to share with each other. We're not the only ones who have knowledge to share. So please, keep it going in the chat and use the chat feature to do so if you just want to comment on something that you see in the presentation, or you want to, share a resource with other educators. Use the chat for that. But if you have specific questions about Tinkercad for the Tinkercad team or anything Autodesk related, there are several members of the team here who can answer your questions. And the best way to answer individual questions is by using the question and answer feature. So we do have goals for these series, from helping you design and engage with your students in interdisciplinary projects that are both fun and hands-on. We want to help you make sure that those projects that you're doing are accessible and inclusive of all learners. We do want to introduce you to ways that we are seeing emerging technologies such as AI intersect with the classroom, and to kind of crowdsource some ideas of how to navigate this new world. And last but not least, we want to frame Tinkercad for you, and we know that you do this for your students, as a journey. So, wherever your students are starting, we want to help you think about ways that you can connect what they're learning in Tinkercad to future careers that might be exciting or meaningful for them. Before we get started with the formal program, we just want to do a little poll to get to know you a little bit better. Randy, could you launch the poll? The first one is just about what grade level you teach.
Yes,
I
I
think
am
I can.
launching it. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. Remove the
No
button.
worries. We're all a little rusty here. It's been a while since we've done webinars together. Thank you, Randy. So the first question is just, what grade level do you teach? Is it pre-K? Is it post-secondary? Are you a non-traditional educator? Seeing a lot of middle school, which is the sweet spot for Tinkercad. It's always exciting to see post-secondary and college educators joining us. Not seeing any pre-K yet, but so nice mix. So thank you for letting us know. We just have one more, Randy, not to stress you out with polls, but we have one more. And this is just specific to something we're going to be talking about later. So the next one is just about Google Classroom. Just simple yes or no question. Do you use Google Classroom? Because your response will help us inform how we're presenting later on this topic. So it looks like a mix of yes and no. And I know we have a lot of elementary teachers in the group, so that makes sense. So we'll share the results. So thank you for letting us know who's in the room. So our agenda for today, first, we're going to be hearing from Guillermo, who's going to just help us get started with Tinkercad. If you're new to Tinkercad, please let us know in the chat, because I know that we have some of our old and true Tinkercad power users who are here also as experts and resources to help you along and welcome you to this exciting community of educators. Next, we'll hear from Christian, who's going to talk to you about fresh new ways to manage your Tinkercad classroom. And he's also going to tell you about a cool new feature in Tinkercad to help your students design more efficiently using bundle groups. And then I'll be sharing with you some resources that will hopefully be inspiring for your students. And we'll leave some time at the end for a question and answer. So I'm going to pass the mic now to Guillermo, who's going to help us get started with Tinkercad. Guillermo, please take
Thank
it
you very
away.
much. And please just keep moving the
Yep,
slides.
sure.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. I've seen people from many countries. So it's great to see a lot of people from all the world, and actually some people that are it's really late for you. So for example, somebody from Czech Republic, I tend to count 9 hours over where we have right now here. It's a lot, pretty early. So yeah, let's go into the next slide. And I just wanted to make sure, because again, we have people from all over the world, and also from experts and maybe people that had just started on Tinkercad, given the fact that we have I don't know, almost like hundreds of thousands of new users every week during back to school. That means that somebody's just started at some point, right? So it's also good to make sure that y'all understand sort of how we frame Tinkercad as so this great, super fun, but really powerful solution we have for designing, for redesign, for electronics design, for simulation, that that can be used by any ages, right? But as Kellyanne was saying, kind of our sweet spot somehow lies where in the same place where the distribution landed today here, right? Which is somewhere in elementary school, middle school, beginning of high school, and then yes, usage all over the place, right, into post-secondary and more. But yeah, but basically that's the spot that I also mark there, which is kind of fun. We're kind of in agreements on where we think we are, and the other thing is that at the beginning, I mean, you might be using Tinkercad just as a generalist tool for anybody to start getting creative. Some of those kids eventually will want to move into STEM or STEM-related careers, engineering, architecture, civil engineering, construction, so on. So we also want to see Tinkercad as a step into what you can do later with other tools from Autodesk if kids choose to keep going into those careers, right? So a lot of what we do on Tinkercad, there's a correlation with things you can do on more professional tools, but we had a really good, great, not scary, and very fun way to get started. Also, because in the next slide, we also try to make sure that we are relatable to the first steps of a kid in a screen trying to do a 3D design. And somehow, I mean, we do know, I mean, in the same way that many schools, many classrooms has those kind of wooden blocks from the top left, we're sort of also understanding that aggregation is a great way for somebody to get started. And even if you think of a chair like the chair on the bottom left, when you think about, I mean, maybe you as somebody that has done some design would probably think in terms of how you can separate the legs and the kind of on the seat and stuff like that. At the very beginning, it's just a segregation, right? A kid will see it more like something coming from Minecraft sometimes, right? Which is okay. I mean, it's a good place to start. So we are trying to start in the place where we can get the most kids to feel comfortable with the tool, and then of course start adding more and more concepts that will get them closer to probably thinking more like the things on the left, right? So keep next slide. Oh, actually, I can also do that. I know, it's up to you. It's okay. And when you do Tinkercad, and when you go to Tinkercad, you'll realize that there's 3 different environment or workspaces. One is really good for, and it's sort of the most popular and the one that many of you probably use the most, which is for 3D designing. So for direct modeling, meaning that you bring stuff from the panel and you start building things, and you can build things that are pretty complex if you want to, right? I mean, there's a lot of power on just aggregating and removing stuff, especially after we added a sketch, even more so. But yeah, we have an environment for 3D design, making, and simulation. We have an environment for electronics design and also simulation, and we have an environment for 3D design via visual programming, aka in this case code blocks, which look a lot like Scratch blocks too, because also we try to be very relatable to things that they know from the past. I think that's this last slide before I go onto my demo. And again, some of you will say, really, you're going to start putting a box on the screen? Yes, I will. And you will love it. Allow, I guess, replace current share. There we go. Okay, so this is my Tinkercad screen, and before that, I'll just go back to my dashboard. So you know, for example, that you can, I mean, if I start at home, oh, we have our lovely faces up there, and then we have 3 design circuits and code blocks on 3 swim lanes, right, in which you have all the designs you've made. If you have done nothing yet, you will get access to some tutorials to get you started, because again, nothingness is it's horrifying, right? So we want to show you something there. But in this case, I'm already created a design, or at least started with a design. And yeah, you have a bunch of objects on the side that it's almost natural to see what happens when you drag and drop, right? So dragging and dropping will get to, in this case, a box on the scene. What can I do with the box? I already have some hints on those little things I have on the box. Now, if your kids have ever used Google Slides or a PowerPoint or done any sort of anything with an image, if you go to a top view and actually make it flat, that looks a lot like a rectangle you put on Google Slides. And these things look a lot like what you would do there, which is push, push this control to make the thing bigger, and that's a scale. And if you press shift, just like on those applications, you get a uniform scale. And if it's not with shifts and non-uniform scale, so you can also start kind of getting some language there into those heads. And the same on the sides, right? You can make things longer and with shifts also in both directions. And this is kind of the expert one that also works on PowerPoints and Google Slides, which is if you are also clicking Option while you do Shift, it's done from the center. So if you didn't know that for Google's and PowerPoint slides, it's amazing too. So the only thing that's missing at that point for controlling things is, of course, we have another one that makes things taller or shorter, and one that takes things up and down, because in the lack of 3D on the other spaces, there's no need for those, but we try to make them as simple as possible, right? So let's say that we have this element up down here. I'm gonna just bring a little cylinder. By the way, one of the things we noticed when, and I'm just gonna make this a little taller just for a second. One thing we noticed when working with kids is that, I'm just gonna make this thing cruise. When you bring something from the side, it will try to follow the faces, right? And this is what we call cruising. And the reason why this is very important is that in the past, as in like probably 2 years ago, before that, when we did have cruising, if somebody just put a shape here, somebody might think that this cylinder is on top of this box. But of course, I mean, a simple orbit will tell you it's not. It is hard to understand depth for certain ages, right? So we also have to be sort of helping understand how to work on those with those concepts. So let's keep going here. So I have now my base with a tall cylinder. I'm just going to copy the cylinder. This is not a Tinkercad lesson, by the way, but I use Option here on a Mac to do it. And now I'll just bring another object to here to the top. Let's see what I can do with this thing. But also the other thing is that if I bring, it's going to bring another cylinder and just make it a little bigger. I don't care that much about how I did it here, but I'm going to make this a hole. And if I group, if I make a choice to say the box and the cylinder goes together and the cylinder is a hole, when I make a group, this thing becomes void right here, right? So good to know. Then Christian's going to talk about something new that changes the game a little bit or makes it better and faster, but I'm not going to steal his thunder right now with bundles. So I have this, but now imagine that I want to know what happens if I sort of have some gravity on top of this. And funny enough, the button for drag the button for editing something on Zoom is just right on top of the play button. So I need to just move this a little bit. And if I hit play, kind of nothing happens. Why? Well, because this system is already fairly good in terms of stability, right? But if I just put this thing here and I go back to here, the whole thing falls down, right? Now, first of all, it's really fun for kids to see things falling down. By first thing we learned. Second one, this is a great teaching moment because you can start understanding. You can start letting them understand at which point you need to move this thing for this structure not to fall, right? And eventually, if your kids are the right age, you might start talking about work, right? So the what happens between distance and force, and why this thing is not falling here, and how far this way can it be to not fall, right? So there's a lot of things you can do there. But let's make it just a little more fun for a second. And beyond basic shapes, we also have other things. So we have some creatures here, and we have my favorite, which is Elvis. So we're gonna have Elvis on top of here, and let's gonna go back to SimLab. And the SimLab is this environment that I was just using here, which is not the one that you normally start with anyway. So some of you might not have ever used it. And it's kind of wobbly, but still Elvis is there. You know what? We can just drop Elvis if we are really good at, oh, come on. I want to, first try. Okay, so Elvis has left the building. So there's a lot of things here that are happening. And the most important thing is that kids can have a lot of fun and be learning at the same time, right? And when learning becomes fun, learning is easier, right? And learning doesn't have to be difficult, right? Here we're talking about very deep, sometimes concepts of physics that if you just tell them open physics book in page 349, you lost half of them, right? Doing something like this could be more interesting, and of course could be even more interesting if we start adding like gravity and stuff like that.
Guillermo, sorry
But
to
that's not
interrupt,
something I
but
want to. Oh, sorry.
there's a request that you speak a little louder. Some people are having
Louder?
trouble hearing you. Yes.
Oh, I am never being asked to speak louder.
I was surprised by that, Guillermo, but
Oh, amazing.
use your teacher voice.
I was expecting to be told to speak slower, but anyway, is that loud enough?
Yes.
Awesome, great. But hopefully you still understood what I was saying, because it was probably really fun. And let me just keep going now into a couple more things I would like to do, because again, Tinker has, and of course in Tinkercad at any point you can export to OBJs or STLs. OBJs when you have color on the objects, STL if you just want to make a 3D print. Mostly I would say, I mean, still STL, everybody pretty much uses STL unless you need color, but we have those options. GLTF serves other purposes. We also have workflows with other tools in Autodesk like Fusion or Forma that we'll cover more in other webinars, mostly the second one, that help you not start from scratch on those applications. But in this particular case now, I'm just going to switch to other things you can do on Tinkercad. And again, a little more advanced, just like a nod to some of you that might already know Tinkercad pretty well and are probably getting bored if I keep talking about basic things. But for example, this particular example, right? So not only on SimLab we can do gravity, but also we have motors, right? So each of these connectors, which is what we call them, define a relationship between objects, right? Could be an axis, could be a slider, right? Could be a pivot, and in this particular case, not only you can then define the type of motor and also some of the values, which is going to be starting and speed and torque and everything. And again, a lot of things you can start talking about in your classroom. It also has interactions. So for example, in this case, A and D will move the wheels because that's what this one is doing. And I'll just show you what happens. And then there's another here that will move front and back. So this has rear traction, right? This thing. But so when I hit play, not only I have the object, I can also make it go, just turn. So there you go, right? So I just wanted to see if I could, let's make it fall, because it's nothing more interesting than just free fall. Hey, there you go. You need to be also young as your kids, young in mind and immature like them, and laugh about those things. And that there's a lot to unpack on those things, and we're not going to be talking too much about that today, but definitely there's a lot of really good information on our Tinkercad blog, which is a resource that you should be looking at because we have really good lessons there. And just one more around simulation and physics. This is something you probably know well, is a Newton cradle, right? So you kind of know what's happening here, right? So one falls, it sort of the energy moves to the other one, and so on, and of course there's diffusion of energy, so they start going less high, right, until they stop. But not only that, I mean, if you see these little lines here, those lines are traces that we had preset, and in this case, let's go to the one that's really interesting here, which is total energy. What you see here is exactly what was happening, right? So total energy maximum for the red ball, and then just there's a little bit of energy lost on the collision, and then it just goes into the other one, and then the other one. And not only that, you can export this to a CSV file, so you can make reports on that. So lots of things you can do on Tinkercad that are just way beyond a name tag or some basic things. By the way, doing basic things, if you have beginners, it's amazing, right? But if you start thinking about this and you have some maybe kids on doing Rube Goldberg machines and stuff like that, not only you can build them, you can also simulate them, and you can also analyze kind of the speed and stuff like, or a trebuchet. How far can you throw something? I mean, I know that's a very, very, very common exercise on STEM or STEAM classes, right? So there's a lot of that could think it becomes a really great companion, not just for building something for 3D printing, but just to help them design better and understand what they're doing in a much better way. And that's only with the 3D side of things, right? But let's stay on 3D, but in a different way, right? And this is code blocks, right? So on code blocks, if your kids have done any sort of coding with Scratch, for example, they will understand this interface pretty well, because it's very similar blocks. We've definitely worked, and we do have actually even a webinar together, the third one of the series with somebody from Scratch, with Marion. And in this particular case, we have the same objects we have on the 3D workspace, except that in this case, they are put in a way in which you can work with code, and by coding with code blocks, and for example, start adding variables, right? Why is this important? Because what I'm going to show you here, which is just a very interesting shape, right, made out of cylinders that are slightly rotated and then rotate against an axis. I mean, I can build this pretty easily on not easily, but I can build this on the 3D workspace. But if I need to make a change, just for example, oh, I don't need 15, I need 10. Oh, I need to start again. I mean, there's no way to make changes to that and make it work again. So in this case, I can just say, well, maybe I just need 10, right? And or the in this, and so let me see what happens here, right? So it already changed. What about making 6? Let's just get started again, and right. So there you go. So 6 plus a copy. So that's 7. So this is the real power of using variables, right? To do the code, and just show all the options you can have for making basically what I would call parametric objects, right? So that's a great thing to do. Normally we talk about it a lot in Hour of Code, but Hour of Code should be every day, right? So you should be trying to get your kids into understanding not only how to build things, but how to build effectively. And building effectively, in many cases, if there's a shape that can have different formats based on what you're doing, right? For example, more holes, less holes, or more faces, stuff like that. Code blocks is perfect, right? And moving just kind of very fast into circuits. Again, same concept. You have objects on the right. You just drag them to the canvas, right? Anybody played Plants vs Zombies? I mean, the pea shooter, you were dragging it from the side into the garden too. I mean, it can happen. You know, kids know how to do these things, right? They don't have to teach them those things. And in this case, I had 3 LEDs. 2 of them with resistors, with resistances, and 1 without. And then just a couple of reminders, just in case. I put here 2 notes on this one, with intensity is voltage divided by resistance. I don't know if I'm bringing back some nightmares from high school. And current equals well, it's the same, correct? Current or intensity voltage divided by resistance. Why am I saying this? Because if you have a resistance in a circuit, the current is going to be lower because the resistance is dividing here, right? So if I first show you the code here is, again, blocks, right? Because kids know blocks. And by the way, if this is an Arduino, you could also use text and C++. And actually, when you create the blocks, you can also see the text created on the side. So it's also another way to start ramping up if you want to go that way. If you just want to keep them because of the age or because you're not interested in going that deep in code blocks, that's perfect, right? So in this case, I'm assigning a voltage to one of these pins. So one of these lights is going to turn on. Then after a second, the other one is going to turn on. So far, I'm going to just say this is going to be like 3 seconds. It's going to be a little more boring, but I really want to show you something here about it. So, and then if I run the simulation, and I also added a voltmeter here. So for example, 0 volts, Well, the meter is on it's on the red one. But for example, the green one just turned on. What happened on the green one? The green one, they have resistance. It's telling us that the LED is going to be either blowing up. It was going to be basically either blowing up or have a very short life, right? If we go up here, that's why it said I didn't catch it on time. So you can check the voltage of something. If you have this thing here, the yellow doesn't have anything because it doesn't really it doesn't have it there, but the green one is exploding. Not exploding really, it's just going to be not working for a long time. So what can you do there? I mean, how many LEDs you wanna just lose on an experiment, right? The real ones, right? So you can do a lot of things on circuits that allow you to do this faster. So again, design, simulation, coding in a very easy, fun, non-scary environment. It's a great place to start. But again, if you start looking at the gallery and things and stuff that some people do, I'm just going to open one from a high school student that I know well, that created this car, and he actually built the car. That he built this car, and actually he sits in the car and he drives this car, right? So he designed everything on Tinkercad, and now he's actually racing on this car. I mean, of course, he didn't buy it. He bought the seats, right? But everything else is designed in Tinkercad, as it should, right? So you can go from name tag to whatever, from a live following robot or stuff like that. If you just take the time to see all what we offer in Tinkercad. So with that said, I'm gonna stop now because Christian has very exciting stuff to show about new features we added.
Thank you, Guillermo.
And I don't know if there
Making
were
it
questions while
real.
I was talking fast and not loud, but if there's any questions, we can answer now or later, whatever you think, Randy. Your DMC.
Oh yeah, there was a question. There's a couple that I thought were good. There was one, how do you move between the different workspaces?
So how do you move?
Yeah, how do you go from like code blocks to the circuits
Well, I
editor?
had just opened tabs up there because it was the easiest way, but you go back to your dashboard and you just choose the workspace and go there from there.
Guillermo, I think the question was, could you move like the cool cup that you made in code blocks? Could you move that into the 3D editor?
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's you can on the top of code blocks you have a way to share, and one of the options is to share to the 3D workspace. At that time, what we share is whatever version of the code block was on the variables at the moment. So we sort of play that sequence and we sort of bake that into a model that gets into the into a 3D space. But stay tuned.
Thank you.
Okay.
We did have a chat question. I'm going to say it out loud as we're getting ready to tee up Christian. But we always love it, and I know the teachers always love it when you all share some ideas of what's your first Tinkercad project that you do during the school year. Maybe you're in the midst of it now. Maybe you're still thinking about it. So, please pay attention to Christian's presentation because it's fascinating. But at the same time, if you want to share in the chat just some ideas to help out your other fellow teachers, Tinkercad projects that you do or that you're doing right now. Christian,
Okay.
take it away.
I'll take it away. Yes, I saw on the poll that 54% of you were Google teachers and 46 not using Google. So there's something for both of you, but I'm going to start with those of you using Google in your classroom. The current Tinkercad integrations with Google, and some of you may know this, is we have the single sign-on, sign in with Google here. So this is really convenient so you don't have to have separate accounts. You can use the same credentials that you use for Google to get into Tinkercad. We have a lot of teachers and students using this workflow. It's very convenient. The other one is this share to Google Classroom. If you click export or send to, you can choose to share to Google Classroom. And this is really just sharing a URL, a link to your design. And you can do this if you're a student or a teacher. So if you're a teacher, you may use it in one way. A student, you may be sending it to your assignment. But more on that, we have something coming up that's really exciting. The last one here is Google Drive. So of course you can, if you're exporting for 3D printing, for example, some teachers prefer to have all of their students send their STLs that they're going to print on their printer into a Google Drive, a shared Google Drive that the class has, or you can use your own personal Google Drive. And that basically gives you that hierarchy of your of your own personal Google Drive directory, and you can save to it. So, but what I'm really here to talk to you about is our new, relatively new integration, which is the Tinkercad's Google Classroom add-on. And you'll get these slides, so you'll get the link to this Google Workspace Marketplace. It's available there. And all you have to do is install it. It's free. So this really, you saw that sharing to Google Drive. This is really more integrated between Tinkercad and Google Workspace. So you'll want to use this. It works with Google Classroom. And it really streamlines the assignment attachments for Tinkercad-based assignments. You can enable this. If you don't see it in there or it's not available, you can ask your Google Workspace admin to enable it, and the teacher can install it. Really, some of the benefits here with the Tinkercad add-on for Google Workspace is teachers get to work from their centralized location. They're not jumping around to different applications like Tinkercad over here and then trying to make assignments over here. They stay in Google Classroom and they can use the add-on to bring in the Tinkercad stuff, the Tinkercad attachments straight from their their Google Classroom environment. The same goes for students. We try to make it seamless so that students can discover the attachments that you create, the Tinkercad-based attachments, and work inside of Tinkercad, and then easily come back to Google Classroom and turn in their assignment. So really, it's kind of a streamlined, better integration now that allows teachers and students to focus on the project and less on technicalities and emailing things, or you're just based in Google Classroom. Okay, so that's for you Google teachers. I think I'm going to demo real quick. Okay, so let me do this. Let's see if I can pull this off. Let's go to here. Yes. Okay, so this is Google Classroom. And I have this assignment I've been building. The example assignment is build a 3D animal cell and label the organelles. So those are the pieces that are in an animal cell. So I'll go ahead and edit this. And you can see in here, let me just refresh this if I may. Let me edit this. Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to see. You can see you have your attachments in your Google assignment. This is the teacher view. And you have, images or PDFs, or you can even attach other Google related things like YouTube videos or links or something in your drive, for example. But what you see here is I can go ahead and click Explore Add-ons. And here is the Google Workplace. That's okay. That's going to be hard to say really quick. Google Workspace Marketplace. And I'm just scrolling down. I know I'm going to do that again, by the way. So I'm scrolling down. I see this Tinkercad app is here. This is it right here. It says, we've had a lot of people downloading it and using it. Your Google Workspace admin will enable this for you. So you can come in, if you don't see it, you can come in here and you can click install. You can also just search for it up here if you don't see it. So just type in Tinkercad and it'll come up. But here, this is the top rated one. Look, we have some marks here. So I'm going to click install and continue. Okay. And this is just allowing this is an alias teacher, a fake teacher, just to show you the workflow. I'm going to click continue, and I'm allowing Tinkercad to integrate with Google Classroom essentially. And so I can click allow. And once I do that, give it a second. I'm done. It's been installed. Pretty easy. So I'll close the Google Workspace Marketplace. And when I come back here, now I have the add-on. So I want to create a boilerplate template of a Tinkercad design that I want my students to build this animal cell and label all of the parts. So I will click this, and it's going to bring up a window of my Tinkercad. Let me give it a second. Yeah. So I'm just signing back into Tinkercad here. That's fine. I'm going to allow the integration between Google. And here I have my dashboard in Tinkercad. I'm still in Google Classroom. This is just a window into my Tinkercad dashboard. So as a teacher, I did go and create these earlier, but when I'm creating the assignment, I'm just in Google Classroom. So here's my cell project, and I can select up to 8, but I'm just going to choose this one and I'll click Attach Design down here. Note that I can also try circuits or code blocks, some of those types that Guillermo demoed earlier. So I'll click Attach Design for that one. And now it's just another attachment here. And of course, as a teacher, I have all of these other resources here in Google Classroom uh, over here. And of course, I can click Assign. So that's as far as I'm going to take the live demo. But I do have some slides just to kind of illustrate like some of the downstream workflows. So that's the teacher attaching a Tinkercad design, and they assign the class. So what happens next? Okay, you assign the assignment to your students. Your students discover the attachment in Google Classroom in their assignment. And you can see I'm in Google Classroom here. You can see by this sort of turn in up here. It's not ready to turn in. It's ready to start tinkering. So the student will take this and start working over in Tinkercad. They just click Start Tinkering from that Google assignment. Once the student has worked through their assignment, in this case, modeled the animal cell and labeled all the organelles like this, they can turn it in. They just click the Turn In button up in their Google Classroom, and the integration is there. Remember, we clicked to allow the integration. So it's there and it knows. It's streamlined. It lets the student turn in their particular project for that assignment. Okay? Next, once that's turned in, the teacher can review, can open up the student's design to see how they've done. And in this case, they opened up the teachers directly looking at a student's submitted work, and they can go back to Google Classroom and do all the things that they do, such as grading, that kind of thing. All the goodies that Google Classroom gives you to the teacher for, deciding what kind of marks the student got. Okay. Now, I mentioned we have something for you who are not part of Google. So listen up if you're in that other 46%. Tinkercad Classrooms is sort of like a very basic version of like what Google Classroom has. We have Tinkercad Classrooms with activities, and it's very basic. So if you don't have Google, you can use Tinkercad Classrooms. These are all based in Tinkercad, of course. Now, if you're using the Google add-on, the Tinkercad Classrooms are optional. You don't have to use Tinkercad Classrooms if you're using the add-on. One thing I will mention though, and this is important, if you have kids that are under 13, you probably want to use Tinkercad Classrooms because there's a super convenient way to get your students onboarded. You as the teacher will moderate. It's a requirement. It's a COPA law to moderate children under 13. So Tinkercad Classrooms has a really slick way. When you give those youngsters a class code, they can click to join your class, and that gets them onto Tinkercad. And that's a good reason why you might want to use both if you have students that are younger. So, but again, it's not required otherwise to use Tinkercad Classrooms. So keep that in mind. Are we seeing any questions coming up? I think this is my last slide here. So Tinkercad Classrooms are based in Tinkercad, a good option for those without Google. The Tinkercad Classrooms and the activities, that's kind of like a Google assignment. The activities are inside of Tinkercad Classrooms. If you're using the add-on, you don't need to create assignments. You can just focus on using where you feel comfortable in Google Classroom. Okay, and I did mention for students under 13, Tinkercad Classrooms are a quick way to onboard those youngsters so that they can get into Tinkercad. All right.
Randy, were there questions for Christian just on the before, because he's going to move from Google add-on for Tinkercad add-on for Google Classrooms. He's going to move on. So were there any questions specifically?
No, there was questions about a lot of the different ecosystems that people use to
Okay.
Mm.
We
use
will have the
classrooms.
Q&A at the
Yeah.
end as well.
And I will say that you could probably use Tinkercad Classrooms for those different ecosystems. And then you saw that first slide where we have, well, you can share URLs. Uh, you can probably copy and paste URLs. There's ways to create. If you're using Tinkercad Classrooms and you're the teacher, you can see all of your students' stuff. So if your students have, if you're their moderator, they can just give you any design. They don't have to make it public even. So just think about that. That's another good reason to use Tinkercad Classrooms. And if while you're integrating with other LMS systems, you could take that, use that to your advantage as a teacher.
There's one very popular question here. Is there a way to move models from different classrooms from year to year?
Different classrooms from year to year. We're working on something like that. We have activities which you can copy from one activity to another. So if you have an activity in one class, you can copy it to another activity in another class. And that's one way to kind of get those templates, if you will, from one to the other. But it all exists in your teacher account.
Yeah,
So
I think that the question, Christian, was mostly about if they move a kid from, let's say, fourth grade to fifth grade, if there's a way to carry the designs from the kid from one class to the other
oh,
across.
yes. Yeah. Well, that happens. Yeah. So the child, if you're joining with Google, for example, they're going to log in the same way from year to year, and they always have their designs in their dashboard. They don't lose them. So if they're joining your class, you'll still, as their moderator, will see all of their designs from previous years. So the classrooms is more of an organizational tool, and gives the teachers their moderation they need. If a student has multiple moderators, those moderators can see everything the student has done. So it doesn't really matter what year they did it. Yeah. Or what class they did it in. Yeah. I hope that made sense. Okay. Should we move on to bundles or do we have
Yes.
more questions?
I think maybe we can answer some more of the questions at the end with the Q&A. It just bundles
Sure.
is really cool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Guillermo hinted of it. Let's see if I can do this. I'm doing my keyboard magic here. Here we go.
Impressive, Christian.
Under pressure. Okay. So Guillermo talked about the union groups earlier, where when you group a union group, it's combining all of that geometry together and creating entirely new geometry. So you might combine a bunch of different basic shapes like a cylinder and a sphere, make one of them a hole, and then you have a completely new shape. And you use union for that. And I'm going to show you just what I mean. I'm going to demo this. So I have two cylinders, a box, and a text object that says Tinkercad, and this tube object. If I just window select and I group like Guillermo did earlier, it's going to think about all of those shapes that are selected and group them. And look what happens. So it's thinking, thinking, thinking. And that computing takes some time, right? So keep that in mind. But you can see in the end, I get one object here. If I select it, I can deselect it, and I select it, it's one object. Of course, I can ungroup it and go back to the components, but this is now its own unique shape made from those basic shapes that I found over here. Okay, that's a union group, and that's this icon here. Now, what we just introduced is something called a bundle. And a bundle is something that's a little more efficient. You notice when I did that union group? Well, think about doing that. You saw that red outline and it took some time. That's because it's processing on the cloud so that it can create that geometry. So it doesn't really matter what device you have. We have the cloud to give you that complex geometry, right? Well, it still takes time. And as you build your design, it can get more and more slow. So we wanted a way that you could be efficient in your modeling. And the way we do that is with the bundle. Bundles are instantaneous, okay? So when I select this group, I'm not going to select the union group. I'm going to choose bundle. And what this does is it instantly creates a group of objects. So now when I select this, I can move this around. Let me ungroup that bundle. Before it was a bundle, if I moved this stuff around like this, it falls apart. And if I had a car, I'm breaking my car right now, right? So what I want to do is bundle this stuff. I know I don't want it to move uh, relative to each other, all these shapes. So there's bundle. And now no matter where I select, it's moving. And I'm not doing, you can see I still have all of my little edges and shapes, and the hole is even still there. It didn't get cut out. So this is a really nice way to keep your scenes for your students, to keep them lightweight. Okay, and here I have another example. This is just kind of a real world example. Here's a little bird house, I would say. And this is uh, made by our VIP designer, ZDP189. Thank you, ZDP189. He has really some cool SimLab stuff, if you can check out his stuff in the gallery. But this is a bird. Now, if I want to remove this bird into his house, I'm going to grab it and I say, whoa, 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 what happened? What happened? What happened? And this is like that car example where you don't want to pull your shapes apart. So what I'm going to do is use a bundle. This is starting to get a little complex with all these wings. These are basically squashed spheres. So if I were to union that, it might take 10 seconds or so, right? But with the bundle, it's instant, right? So there's my bundle. Now, when I move this bird around, it's not getting torn apart. So let me show you a little some more things why I might do this. If I look in my little birdhouse, he's an interior designer, or she, I don't know. But let me hide let me just hide this first real quick, because I want to be able to look at the layout in here. And what I can do is I'm going to grab my bird and I'm going to cruise the bird down into the house. So the bird, whoop, let me undo that. Cruise down into here. Okay, so the bird's hanging out while we're going to do a little remodeling. The bird wants to watch TV. I don't know what shows the bird is watching, but let's move this couch so that it's facing the TV. So if I grab this pillow, okay, I need this whole thing to move together. Well, welcome, bundles to the rescue, I should say. So let's do that. I'm going to select these pillows, okay? And the couch and this ottoman and the rug, and I'm going to bundle it. Now, if I were to group this, it would probably take 20 seconds, but I'm going to bundle it and it's instant. And so now I can say, okay, well, he wants to face this way. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and go like this, okay? Another cool thing about bundles is that you can bundle bundles. So here I have these oranges. These are a bundle. You can see in the green outline. These notebooks are outlined in green as well. Those are bundles. That's how you tell if it's a bundle, if it's outlined in green. And this is a bundle. So what I can do is just say, well, I just want all of these bundles to move together because I like this. I'm going to bundle it. So now I have I have bundles inside of a bundle, and I can move this around. If I click off of here, I can always just click anywhere, and I'm moving that bundle around. So here, let's move this a little closer. Let's move this behind here, and let's move this guy to watch TV. Let's see. I'm going to cruise over here, and then I can rotate him into place, and that's that. Now, to finalize this whole thing, I mean, these are all bundles in here. This is a fun little project that ZDP created. If I unhide everything, now I have my birdhouse how I want it. I don't want it to change. Now, a common thing that students do is they'll inadvertently move stuff. So what I might do now is to just make this all a bundle. I'll select everything and say bundle. Okay, now my birdhouse is a bundle. And now when I move this around, everything is moving around how I want it, and our bird is still in there watching TV in the right position. I haven't screwed anything up. I have this big bundle that I've basically made for the whole entire house. And so that's the benefits of bundles. If you were to group this whole thing with a union, you may have to go to lunch or something and come back. So, uh, so that's my little demo on bundles. Let's move on. Are there any questions?
I think he's watching the Birdie Bunch.
The bird.
Although he's very
good.
sophisticated, so
Oh,
maybe
man.
I mean maybe it's some type of independent film. I don't know.
I
Fine
like
taste.
the birdie bunch is pretty good.
Yeah,
We can go with that.
fits in the space, I think.
Okay. So if there's any questions, let me know, or we can save them for the end. But I will hand it back off to you. Kellyanne, is it coming back to you?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
go ahead.
And
Cool.
it's always fun when Zoom. Oh, and great.
We're getting better at this.
We really are.
The handoff and the
Yeah.
screen share.
And then having to skip to slides. I think, yeah. All right. So we did have actually one question for you before we move into resources that we hope will inspire you and your students. Just kind of based on Christian's demonstration about the Tinkercad add-on for Google Classroom. We're wondering, have you used it yet? What feedback can you give us on how it's working for you, and any other questions that you have? And we will stick around at the end for question and answers, but do please let us know in the chat. It's helpful information for us. So just some resources for inspiring your students. There's been just a lot. I know that we were sharing a lot during this webinar, but like so much has happened within Tinkercad since the last time that we did a webinar. So there's, in addition to like in the product updates, there's also been other updates just around like our teacher page. We have a new section that has curriculum that's curated by subject. So just to kind of double click into architecture, you can see within each of these curriculum pages, there's tutorials, there are lesson plans. You'll also see that just fun project ideas. So, in the past, a lot of this was kind of scattered across different spaces. So just really proud of the way how this is a nice picture sales dash. And we're going to talk actually during our next webinar about this fun new workflow that we have from Tinkercad into Forma. So just to kind of continue to talk a little bit about those design and make skills badges, those were a way that we were trying to help you find ways to map the skills that your students are learning in Tinkercad with careers that they might want to pursue in the future. So just to kind of show you what these badges look like, how you would issue them is if you have a Tinkercad classroom, you might assign students a robotics project, and it might include some of these sort of sub skills that are here. So like model, prototype, and simulate linkages, or to design and simulate an electronic circuit. As students, develop these skills and demonstrate them in the work that they're doing, you might issue them a badge. And the badges, each badge is also aligned with ISTE standards as well. So it's just a fun way for you to reward your students and to kind of recognize the skills that they're learning across different domains. Speaking of robotics, I recently had a fun adventure at the Boston Autodesk Technology Center, in which we invited a group of students who were part of a robotics program, a week-long program. And it was really fun because I had to teach myself how to teach students how to design robots. And as a former English teacher and journalism major who did not study STEM, it was interesting to kind of teach myself these skills and to kind of learn along with students. So that's kind of the subject of this blog post. Randy's going to put it in the chat. But we did a fun activity that was inspired by this prompt of what if a familiar robot design could be modified to solve a different problem. And what we used as an example was this XRP robot that is a kind of open source kit of parts that for making a robot that's kind of accessible and kind of easy to either 3D print, or it's affordable to buy the kit as well. This is all in collaboration with First Robotics. And a couple years ago, we actually put this kit of parts as a shapes collection within Tinkercad. So that was kind of the basis of the activity, was to think about, you can see in the lower left-hand corner, the student really thought outside the box in terms of how he could modify this robot to solve a problem. So I believe this one with all the tacks and the surveillance on it was actually a home surveillance or home security robot. And as we moved from this like fun pitch of an idea and this ideation phase, we then moved into thinking about how you could take this design in Tinkercad. I'm glad everybody loved this design and move it into Fusion to think about, the ways that you can, use Tinkercad as kind of a digital sketchbook for your concept, but then move it into Fusion to make a more professional design. So this was the agenda that we followed. I also, within the blog post itself, I have some step-by-step instructions. I kind of documented them as I was figuring out myself how to make a robot move with motors. Guillermo kind of stole my thunder with his really cool SimLab design, but I was really proud of myself that I figured out how to make my robot move. And then I leveled up my skills even during the lesson because students asked, can you hit a key and make the robot move faster? So we figured it out together. And you can see here that we edited it, the interaction, so that when you hit a key, it actually speeds up. And I'm ready for Formula One now, I think, with my robot. Just another kind of new opportunity that we announced recently was the Autodesk Tinkercad 3D design certification. It's offered through Certiport. It is a certification that you as an educator could get yourself, and there's all types of reasons for why you might want to challenge yourself to get the certification. And it's also a certification that you could offer to your students. And these are the types of skills that they would need to learn. It's meant to be kind of a way in to getting a certification. So it's, it's meant to be accessible and, validating the skills that they're learning, but not, too exclusive that, they would have a hard time getting the certification. So there's more information here. We're going to, again, as Christian said, share these slides with you following the webinar. But I do think Randy has some more information that he can share with you in the chat. Also, just wanted to remind you of the Tinkercad challenges. I think that birdhouse design was an entry into an interior design Tinkercad challenge. So Nicole, who's with us tonight, does an excellent job coming up with really fun challenges and updating them. We usually have a new one, I think, every 2 weeks. These are the ones that are current right now. And it's a great way for your students to flex their skills, show off their creativity, and be celebrated by the Tinkercad team for their awesome work. We also do have student design contests for older students. These are hosted on Instructables. We currently have 3 student design contests running right now. One is an architecture student design contest. Another is more in the media and entertainment category, Make It Float. And then there's also Make It Spin, which is an engineering student contest. All of these contests offer cool prizes like gift cards, and each one also has a grand prize of this really cool 3D printer. So check that out, and Randy's going to share the link. And please, we're so happy that you were so engaged. We know that we ran a little bit long, but I think that we're going to be more efficient next time, especially because we have friends from MIT with us for the next episode. So please tune in on Thursday, October 23rd. We're going to be joined by our friends from Lemelson MIT and also educators from the Watertown Public Schools. And Lemelson MIT has a program called Invent Teams, and you can see an image from one of the student projects here. They do a lot of work with students with invention education. So what you can see pictured here was students who actually used Tinkercad to create a robot that agitates the surface tension of the water to prevent mosquitoes from hatching eggs. So very important project. And they also teach students patenting as well. So it should be a really fun episode hearing from both educators from MIT, but also educators from the Watertown Public Schools, particularly the high school. But do please stay connected and please tune in again in October. And we're just so grateful that you joined us tonight. So thank you for making us part of your day or evening or late night. So we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.
See you. Bye.